Jody Demling with CardinalAuthority.com. Hope all is well. Welcome. I guess the first thing, since we haven't talked, I mean, are you, you get thrown right into it. You get hired, and hey, here we have spring ball. I think it was the next week. What's the experience been like so far, and have you had any time to move?
That's a daily process. It's I did, so I ended up taking the job on a Friday, flew in on a Sunday. The first time I ever met my guys was that first meeting. We practiced that Monday. So it's been a good transition. It's you try to piece it together as best you can. The good thing for me is the familiarity with the defense and being able to be with Coach Brown and Coach Satterfield back in 2018, and then also in 2013 and 14 as a GA. So in this system, so just kind of having that familiarity. Last year, the defense we were in, it was the same structure, same call system, a lot of the same checks up at West Point. So there is that familiarity, but it's the nuances of the defense that everybody's kind of put their own little spin on it, and that's the biggest thing. So for me, I try to teach the guys in buckets and concepts. So they got to know the defense. They got to know where their help is. They got to know the strengths and weaknesses. They got to know what is this defense meant to stop and what is it, what are we willing to give up in it? And then they'll understand that we can call something different. If they're hitting us on something, we have other calls to go to. So we don't have to stop everything. You got to do your job within the scheme of the defense. But at the end of the day, if you play faster and you play harder and everybody else, the team that wants to win the game the most generally does. And so teaching the concepts to them has been it's been fun for me too. Just trying to just kind of start over, reteach because of the youth in the room. And these guys, a lot of them didn't know anything about this defense the first day I walked in. Just teaching them what it meant, how we called it, just the different coverages, the checks, the 3x1s. And so it's amazing to watch their progress from day 1 to day 13, really day 14. And so it's been a lot of fun and moving. It's a never-ending process. That's why I was just telling these guys. I think I went back and forth as much as I could, and then last weekend we had a good 13-hour family drive from West Point to Louisville. So it was fun, but it's a necessary evil, but it's also what makes this so fun in this profession is the people you meet, the young men you get to work with, the areas you get to see. I've been so blessed, especially to be here at this place right now. We couldn't ask to be anywhere better.
Hey, Coach, this is Cameron with the Courier-Journal. First, welcome to Louisville. I've been curious, and you kind of touched on it there. When you have such a young safety core, how much does having that relationship with Brian Brown and knowing what he wants to do on defense help you get these guys up to speed so quickly?
It does help me. He's been in this system for a long time, and he's unbelievably smart. And he knows what he wants, and there's things that have been tweaked, and he knows why, and it's because it's helped us kind of take this defense to the next level. So he's done a great job being patient and helping me understand the defense. And then on the flip side, he understands that we've got young guys that, there's kind of two ways you can do it. Either you can slow it down so slow where these guys get really, really good at something, and then you move on to the next thing, or you can throw a little bit more at them and see what they can and can't do, but you also get to see what the MO of this defense for this year's team is going to be. And so, what we wanted to do was we wanted to say, okay, we're gonna kind of have a balance of how fast we put things in. We want to see who can pick things up the quickest, who's got kind of that football IQ, but then also, see what we do well as a defense. And so these guys, I try to teach them what a quarters concept is. How do you play a post? How do you play a half technique? And then all of a sudden, once you start throwing more and more and more at them, you can just tell them, hey, we're playing quarters coverage, or we're playing a post coverage, or we're playing a skiff technique. And we can do a lot of different fun things, but if you keep it simple enough and teach the technique, teach leverage and where your help is, those guys can play fast. And you can see it today. It's starting to click for them. When they play fast, it's a whole different defense. When they're thinking, it makes the game a little bit more difficult. So the good thing is we don't play this week, thank God. But we got plenty of time, and it's a progression. And so we got a plan, from a off-season plan, summer plan, preseason plan. So we got a plan in place to get these guys ready to rock and roll in September when we got to really roll the ball out and play.
Greg,
Go
ahead.
Okay. A quick follow-up to that. I've you've been described to me as a teacher of the game, a guy who's very, very smart. When did that start for you, or you felt like you just kind of always had a natural football IQ?
I just think, I know for me as a player, if I understood something, I could play really fast, right? And so the way I try to break it down is, and I remember, I've been a part of some defenses where we've ended up throwing a lot of stuff in there. It almost became to a point where it was overwhelming myself. And so in my mind, I said, how can I make this simple for me to understand and make it simple for the kids to understand? Because at the end of the day, everything that you put on the board is great, but when you got a team that's going tempo and you got to make checks and calls and do things quickly, you've got to be able to slow the game down and simplify it. So I've been able to put things in buckets, slow the game down, teach it, because it is. I mean, at the end of the day, for a defensive back, it's formation recognition. They can be in a 2x2, 3x1, or formation to the boundary. We call it FSL. That's about it. Whether you motion to it or whether you shift to it, whatever it is, it's a numbers game. And so understanding, what your job is on any given set and how splits dictate kind of what the parameters are that you can play with. I just think teaching the guys the game is the best way to do it. And for me, the way I've always said it is, if something ever happened to me, and this has happened to me in my past with some family issues or whatnot, but if something ever happened to me and I had to go, I had to take off tomorrow, you guys should be able to coach each other up. You guys should know the game and understand it and think about it the way I do, so that we don't miss a beat. And that's because at the end of the day, I'm going to be in the box. I'm going to be on the sideline. That's what I tell them. I'm not on the field with you. I do it during practice. But as this thing goes, I'm going to eliminate myself from it and say, your game, play it. And they got to use each other. And so they need to be able to think about the game, I think, the way I do, and be able to simplify it enough to get us lined up and get ready to rock and roll and go play.
Greg, what was the conversation like with when Coach Satt, and I assume obviously with the familiarity with Brian and Coach Satt working for them, when he called you up, it doesn't sound like it had to take too much convincing at all. Hey, come join us over here.
No, not at all. I mean, I knew, and it's just amazing how this works. I mean, it was a Wednesday, I think, in the office, and I had no idea any of this was going on. I got a call in the afternoon from Coach Brown, and Coach Satt called me that night and offered me the position. And, I've always said, and I told him this, I said, Coach, I'm probably going to do it. I've always told my wife that we're going to talk about everything that comes through first before I ever say yes to anything. So, we talked about it and knew that it was the right fit for us. And I'll tell you, West Point is a special place, and it's still hard to leave. The people you work with, what they're going to do, we were very blessed to be a part of that, even if it was for a short period, and created some amazing relationships with my family, my guys, the coaching staff. So it was, that part's always difficult, but just this, coming here and being with, you're with good people. There's no question marks. I've been with Coach B when he was a position coach, a coordinator. I was with Coach Satterfield when, and I always tell people the story. I mean, I was with him in 2013 and 14, the last year in the SoCon, first year in the Sun Belt, his first 2 years, and we started that second year off 1-5. And the thing that impressed me the most was he did not flinch. He knew who he was. He knew who he was as a person, as a coach. He didn't start threatening people. He didn't change it. He was as steady as you can be. He's a great human being. There's not a person more in the world that I want to coach for and be with. So I am so blessed, my family and I, to be here and be a part of this. And we're ready to get started and rock and roll and go roll the ball out this fall. It's going to be fun.
As a follow-up to that, you don't have a whole lot of guys in your room, but you do have some talent. What has your impression been of the guys that you do have, at safety for you so far in spring?
Well, I just think we have a lot of versatility. I mean, you look at, we have so much youth in that room. So you just kind of, at the end of the day, it's about putting the right people in the right places. And that's all I always believe. I mean, you can have the best defense in the world, but if you put Vince Wilfork at safety and Ed Reed at nose guard, probably not going to be very good. It could be the best defense personnel-wise in the world, but if they're not in the right spots, then you're not nearly as good as you can be. And so that's for the first thing, is making sure from a skill set and what they can handle, we put them in the right position. So that was my challenge, as we've gone through this, to kind of maneuver people and put them in position, see where they can be successful. But they got smart guys. Kendrick Duncan's the guy that came over from Georgia Southern, obviously ran a very similar system with Coach Sloan and those guys down here. Coach Sloan was at App State with us. So from a call standpoint, he understands the base structure, the defense, the calls. Lovey Jenkins is a smart player. I mean, he understands football, right? And so the more reps he gets, the better he gets, the more confidence he gets, the better he's gotten this spring. There's a lot we still need to work on, but he's taken that first step. And then the young guys, it's just about getting lined up. I mean, if they don't know what calls to make, to me, the first thing you got to do as a safety, you got to set the defense. Because what you call, it affects everybody, whether you bump backers in the run fit, who you tell, what calls you make tells who has the vertical routes, and that's a big deal. So they've got to understand the playbook, and I've got to do a good job slowing it down as much as I can, but making them understand the game enough to go out there and play. So it's been fun. It's been challenging, and sometimes I got to remind myself and them that, like we said earlier, we're not playing this weekend. So we got to make sure each day we got to take something off the tape, right? Whatever that is, something that we can't make the same mistake, and it can't be everything. But let's pick one thing for that day, and let's put it to bed, and let's get better, and let's move on.
Yeah, and Greg, last thing for me, you mentioned the young guys. I think both Kendrick and Lovey mentioned Ben Perry and Braylon Oliver as guys who the wheels are still turning. They're still trying to get in the right spots, but they just want to learn so much. Have you seen that same kind of willingness to kind of get in the playbook and get in the film room?
Absolutely. Yeah, those guys, they come in extra on their own as much as they can. I mean, both Ben's in there every day extra, trying to get extra work, watch extra film. Braylon's in there a good bit too, sitting with anybody he can just to try to learn the system, and it's paying off. I mean, you watch a practice like today, they're getting their checks, they're making their, the hard things, the tight splits with emotions. I mean, they're seeing it before it happens, and that's the big thing I preach is you got to know what you're going to before those parts start moving, and it makes the game so much more simple. And so the more they understand it, the better they're going to be, because it's hard that first couple of days. You don't even know how good they are or how bad they are, because their feet aren't going anywhere. Their head's going this way, their feet are staying still, no matter what coverage you're in. But as we've gone on, they've been able to slow the game down and play fast. So now, I told them, now I can truly start to evaluate them to see where they're going to fit best, what role they're going to have, and how much they're going to be able to help us. But you can't do that until they know what they're doing, and they're starting to get there.
And Greg, last thing for me, you just can you kind of describe yourself as in the recruiting process of what type of recruiter you are? And I know you played at Wofford. You've been I think you started your career in South Carolina, but you've been in a couple different places as well, coaching. Kind of your philosophy on recruiting and what areas you will maybe target the most.
Gotcha. So for me, recruiting is all about relationships. Anything in life is about relationships, period. So no matter what you're going to do, you got to develop the best relationship. You've got to develop trust. I mean, at the end of the day, and I look at it like this. So I've got a 5-year-old Dominic, a 2.5-year-old Christian, and a 10-week-old baby girl Mila, right? And so and it's a long time coming, but some point I'm going to pass them off to somebody, whether that's just academically, whether that's athletically, whatever it is. And I want to know that the people that I send them with are going to take care of them, not baby them, but they're going to instill the values and kind of continue on what I've started. And so that's what it is for me. And you can't do that until you know somebody. So I try to get to know guys as well as I can, get in touch with them, their parents. But it's a relationship-based deal. And to me, that's what it will always be. And that's what it's always about. And when you've got a lot of good schools, a lot of good programs, and they've all offered you a scholarship, where are you going to end up going? Why are you going to go where you go? And we have what we have. We don't have what we don't have. I've been a Division II, Division III. I've coached high school ball. I've coached FCS. I've coached Group of 5, independent. It don't matter, So at the end of the day, good people are good people and bad people are bad people. It doesn't matter where you are, where you live, what you do. So I'm going to find good people. I'm going to bring them into the room. I'm going to develop them to go do what they want to do with their careers. At the end of the day, they're going to be great people, and they're going to be a part of my family. We're going to have them over to the house. Where my kids are coming to just about every practice. They all go over and say hi to them. So that's a huge deal to me, is those relationships. And then from an area standpoint, I've got a little piece of Kentucky. I've got Western PA, Pittsburgh, kind of the Whippeal area, District 7. I've got Central PA, kind of where I'm from, State College area, over to Harrisburg. I've got the Midlands and the Low Country in South Carolina, kind of, again, some areas I'm familiar with where I'm from. I've got Augusta to Savannah, that area in Georgia. Where else do I have? I think that's about it from an area standpoint. But this staff does a great job, and we recruit as a group. It's not just this guy. It's area, position. It's, again, trying to create more than just one relationship. And I actually got a Zoom meeting with a kid as soon as we get off, so gonna try to get it going.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys, and it was a pleasure meeting you, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys as well.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Yep.